Hey everyone, welcome back to the Tamiya Ducati build. We are starting on step 29. I've took the pleasure in trimming out some of the parts already. We needed A23, we needed A24, which it says to glue those two down together. They're both supposed to be painted LP5, which is a semi-gloss black, which I have right here, LP5. A lot of the parts in this step are LP5, so I'm going to glue them together so that way I don't have to glue them after they're painted. So I'm going to run a little bit of glue on here. Then I'm just going to let it flow. And Tamiya mentions in their little comment right here that there is a gap. The actual bike has recessed channel here, do not fill. So where those two pieces go, you would think that was a seam line and you might want to try to fill it. But they're saying on the actual bike, it's actually there. So, all right, so that's going to be ready for paint. I'm going to set that off to the side. Move back over here, C11, which is right there. A22, which is right there. Those both get painted LP5, semi-gloss black. So we're just going to glue those together. And we have a tiny decal that's going to go on there once we're all painted. So that is on. So we'll put that over in the to paint pile. We have E9, which is this piece here, which apparently is a light of some sort because it gets painted. I'm pretty sure that is clear red. We're just going to check real quick. LP52 is clear red. So I will grab that one, LP52. So that gets painted. Oh, let's jump back. That gets painted clear red. It doesn't say whether to paint it on the inside or the outside. So most likely what we'll do is we'll just paint it from the underside. So, and then that leaves us with A25, which on the outside, it gets painted all LP5. But then on the inside, we have to mask as, well, actually, we'll probably just hand paint it because it's a chrome silver on the inside, except for, so we're going to paint the whole thing semi-gloss black, and then we're going to come back in and just hand paint down inside here where it's showing silver. So it actually goes and attaches to the back of this piece. So we can look and see something else goes there. Let's see. Making sure I did everything right. I don't know if I did everything right. Okay, that'll go there. And then it shows this. Oh, that's why. I need the clear part on the back of there. All right, sorry, had a phone call. Anyway, I didn't do anything wrong. I was going through, I just hadn't all the pieces yet. Sometimes when you dry fit, all the pieces aren't done yet. So, LP5, 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 LP52, clear red. So I'm gonna go paint these parts so we can get them assembled. And part of 29 is also down here, which is gluing these three parts together, which I'm going to do real quick. Also because it gets painted LP5 and LP7, which is red. So we're starting to do a lot of our assembly and colors. So that needs to be joined so it doesn't have a seam. I'm gonna have to come back in and hand paint that LP. So let's cut them and see what we got. So A16 and A17, which are these parts over here. Okay, and C24. 24. Clean these up. Seeing if, oh, it does have two little pegs. I was about to cut those little pegs off. Do not cut those off. Thank goodness I looked. Okay, so these two pieces go together. Okay. Alrighty, so let's try to move the bike out of the way so you guys can see what these directions are saying down here. So C24, basically these two parts go together like this and this. It's got a hole there. And it's got a hole there. So I think what we can do is just glue all this together. Get rid of that seam that's going to be there. Primer this with pink primer because it's calling for LP5, which is a red color. Or I'm sorry, LP7. So let's glue this together so we can at least get working on that seam, because that seam is going to have to be gone before we paint. Okay, that fits good in there. So now we will give a little bit of glue here. And I'm going to run it down here because I'm wanting it to melt that to help create the seam that we're going to need to get rid of. I'm going to come down here, run some glue up that seam. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to run some in there. And then we're going to squeeze it together so it kind of fills with melting plastic. And then we're going to let it sit while we go paint some other parts, because I'm going to come back and work on that. I may need to do the filling with super glue to create a filler. So I'm going to go shoot all of these LP5 semi-gloss black, and this are LP52 clear red. Be back in a little bit. All right, we are back from paint. We painted our, what looks like a little light back here. We painted that LP52, which was our clear red. So it's ready. We painted A25, and now we have to flip it over and we have to hand paint some chrome so that way it gives the light a chance to reflect. We've got our C11 glued to A22 and painted our LP5 semi-gloss black. We have and we have this little piece here, which consists of A23 and A24 painted semi-gloss black as well. So now, after we've painted all those, like I said, we have to glue, or we have to paint that, the chrome silver. So then this will go right up there and make a cool light. Kind of cool. Kind of cool. So that is ready. And then we'll glue all those pieces down here, which we will grab this piece and it'll go on here somehow. And it gets a couple decals as well. There it goes. So it'll go on there like that. And then this assembly with the light will go on the back of here. So, yep. All right, so let's get some silver on here. And we're gonna glue this down to here real quick since we have to glue it next step anyway. So we're just gonna do it right now. And for some reason, I'm gonna have to touch up because it's paint scraping off a little bit. All right, so that's glued on there. And we went ahead and glued this. Remember, we glued that together. So now we're gonna sand that smooth also. So let's get our new favorite, my new favorite chrome silver. LP48, which is sparkling silver. We're going to use that and just kind of paint behind here so that way it'll dry really well. But what I'd like to know is when we glue this down, what parts need to actually be painted and what parts don't. I don't want the paint and the glue to have issues. All right, we're not gonna glue it. I guess we will. I just don't want it to smear. Okay, we're just gonna paint where it says to paint, all along the edges. It says to not paint that, but paint down in here. And I guess after I glue this down, if I've painted something that I shouldn't have, that should remain LP5, then I'll just touch it up at that point. All right, so we've got that done. We'll let that dry. So while we are letting that dry, I'm going to save all my little touch-ups until after we glue the parts. So while we're letting things dry, I'm just going to set them off to the side, get them out of the way. And we are going to focus on this rear part of the seat cowling, I guess, which is going to require decals and paint. And that's why one of my visitors on my YouTube channel suggested and asked where I was in relation to the decals if I had started, because hoping to get this done by next Friday. It's going to be tight. I don't think it's going to be ready for the Roscoe Turner show. But you know what? If it is, it is. If it isn't, it isn't. Maybe I'll take it and just, maybe they'll have a in progress table where you can show your work so far. If that was the case, I've got, heck, probably 20 models in progress. Yeah, there's a seam there. So what I'm going to do is a trick I learned. Unfortunately, I don't have part that is required for this trick, but you take super glue and you just run it along your seam. And then usually you spray it with some instant hardener stuff. I don't, so usually you just shoot that with a accelerator and it'll cure that, so that way you can easily start to sand. But I don't have any of that right now, so we're going to set that off to the side and let it dry. And we're going to see, I think what I'm going to do is use super glue to glue this back here, so that way it doesn't make the silver wet and smear and look nasty. So that's going to drop right in there, which looks pretty cool. I love the way that red worked out. So let's glue a little bit down in here, because that's where the little pegs on the back of the light are going to sit down in this little peg, or this little hole recess area. And I'm just going to put just a little right here. And we're going to drop you into the pegs first. And we're just going to hold you in place. Make sure it seats down in there. I'm anxious to do some decals on here. It's been a long time since I've done some carbon fiber decals. I did the Tamiya McLaren Senna, and I bought the carbon fiber set for it, and it was like 300 carbon fiber decals to put on that car. I think it's actually a little over, but it was very tiresome, but it was very rewarding at the same time. All right, we have our light installed. So now we can bring this piece back over, because now this part goes in these little holes there. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take a little glue, just enough to get it attached in there. A little in there. And then it's gonna sit right over here. So we're gonna drop you into your things there and there. Let you sit down in there. And I'm gonna have to come back in, do a couple of touch-ups because for some reason I scraped the paint off. And that's kind of weird. It's happened in a couple little places. But that assembly is done, which is right here. And then that will go onto the back of here when we're done somehow. That's gonna be pretty cool. I'm glad I turned that over because I just saw a place that's probably gonna need to have the seam hidden as well. Yes, but definitely when you use your Insta-Kick, and it dries that really quick. So we'll set that off. While that is drying, we're just gonna touch up those couple little areas right here. All right. Set that off, and I will take a break and come back when this is ready to sand. I'm wanting to jump ahead, see what we got next. I may actually glue these two pieces together next, so that way they're drying, so that way we can work on that as well. So I'll be back in a minute. All right, back to see if we can't fix this seam and make it all go away. Because then we're going to shoot it with a little pink primer, and then we're going to shoot it with LP7, which I believe is pure red. It seems like tedious work, but it's one of my favorite things to do, knowing that a little bit of work now will make for a really nice finished piece. Using this sponge, it's kind of squishy, so that way it won't square off any edges. It'll just follow the contour of what I'm sanding. It's getting there. All right. I think I've got that part out. All right. I think we're ready to give it a shot of primer. I'm gonna test fit this again. See what we're looking at when that slides in there and stops. All right, so let's go give this a shot of primer. We're gonna use this new primer. Mark out at HobbyNut Models got me some of this. Mr. Finishing Surfacer 1500 Pink. Because pink is supposed to help reds and yellows have more of a true color. So that's what I'm going to shoot. And we'll see what happens. And we'll see if that seam is all gone. So crossing fingers. See you in a minute. All right. We are back from the spray booth. And so what we found is the seam is gone. So I'm real happy about that. But I still have a little bit of riser of super glue right here. You can see the little line. So I'm going to sand that down until that little riser is gone. And then we will reshoot the primer. And then we'll shoot this LP7, which is pure red. So that's what it calls for, pure red. It also calls for X18 on the inside, semi-gloss black. So we're gonna have to do some careful masking when we're done. Make sure that we don't get any black on our red. So most likely, it's gonna be an interesting step. I might have to hand brush that. I'll see what I can do, because I definitely want it smooth and perfect. So I may shoot the red. That's probably what I'll do, is I'll shoot the red, I'll 2K clear it, and then decal, and then 2K clear, and then mask that off once it cures and shoot the black in here. So yeah, the odds that this bike is gonna be done by next Friday is, since it's Easter Sunday right now, is doubtful. But I'm not gonna rush it just to make a competition. So because the end result is more important to me than taking it to compete. So I will get to sanding, and we're going to get rid of that, and I'll be back. All right, really happy with that. We have no seam whatsoever. So I'm really happy. So now we're just gonna let that set up a little bit before we paint it pure red. And so yeah, really excited. Love it when a plan comes together. All right, guys, I'll be back with some pure red. All right, I am back. This is set up. So we are going to put a clear coat, well, not a clear coat, but we're going to do our first painting of LP7 on and get it going. Then we're going to drop it in the food dehydrator and get us set for a clear coat so we can get moving on with all the other stuff. And then while that's all drying, like I mentioned before, I am going to put these two halves together, and I'm going to get all the stuff that we need to be LP7 pure red. I'm going to go through here. I'm going to mark all those pieces that we need to get ready for final assembly, because we're going to paint all of them at the same time and clear coat them all at the same time. So that way we can get our decals on and then clear coat after the decals are on. So try to get it all so it looks the same colors and same process. So let's do our test on here, and we'll be back. All right, we got our first coat of pure red on, just kind of a dusting coat. So we'll let that set up, and we'll put another coat higher in about 10 minutes. All right. All right, we now have the second coat of pure red on. Just want to show you how it's building up. All right, third coat. One more coat, I think, will be sufficient. And then we're going to put it in the food dehydrator for a little bit, try to cure it for the next 2 hours, and then put some clear coat on it tonight. All right, well, we got it out of the food dehydrator, and it is perfectly cured. A couple little greeblies before I hit a little 2K clear here in a minute. Welcome back to the Ducati build, where we just ruined a decal. I don't know if I'll be able to use it again. For some reason, I thought this was the, we had the wrong part. So, good times. So the decal that we need for this is decal 18, which is right here. All right, so we're gonna cut that little square out. I got all the primer down and all the other body parts that we need to be painted red, so I'm going to work on that tonight too. All right, that decal is in. There's a little white decal that goes on here as well. All right, so I'm going to try to slip this on. So maybe I can hold it. It'll give me something to hold instead of touching the clear. All right, get some water on here. All right, so now I just have to move it around. All right. Trying to get all the way to the edge. So get all the water out, coax that down where it needs to be. All right, so that is on. So now what we're going to do is we're going to soften it a little bit, so that way it lays down even better. Just using a little bit of Solvaset. And we'll let it sit for a little bit before we think that we might need a hair dryer. So we will let that sit for just a minute. I'll just set it right down. Gently coax that down. All right,
So we will let that do its job and come back in a minute and see what we got.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We are all over the place on the Ducati build. The last time that we were working, we worked through attaching the battery, attaching the hoses. We worked on building the light and part of the seat part. Then we worked on the seat and cowling, where we were able to get the decal on and the clear on, and underneath painted the X18, which is LP5, semi-gloss black, which will be underneath almost all of these pieces as well, but we're going to shoot those with an airbrush after we mask. After the decals, it'll be a very last step. So I still have one more decal to put on this seat cowling. It's a little white stripe here, decal 28 and 29, which we're going to do here in just a minute, and then we'll attach that to the bike. So let's grab some decals, see if we can find them real quick. I was looking for a white stripe, but no, it's this actual whole decal here. So we are going to put that decal on. I wish I would have known that, because I'll have to seal it again. So let's start with 29, which will go on this side here. All right, so we'll give that one a bath. And while that's bathing, we'll cut the next one out. 28 for the other side. Okay. We're going to use a little bit of microsol and microset as well. So it's going to go right there. All right, so we'll get this thing on here. Okay, so we're going to just manipulate this into place. Taking our time. Okay, we're trying to hide this seam here and hide this seam down here. We're gonna have to manipulate. This seam is probably going to be the most important because it's going to be seen the most. So I can always touch up around the edges. Down. When I build this one again, I think I'm going to paint it. Oh gosh, it keeps moving. I think I'm going to paint it XF or LP5 around these edges. Where the decals are going to be, so that way if it was underneath it would hide some of this better. I mean, like I said, I could touch that up, and I'm going to have to, because every time I move this to cover, this comes uncovered. So we're just going to let it sit right like that, and we're going to get a little Q-tip and try to get some of that water out from under there. It really moves on gloss. All right, so now I'm going to take a little bit of microsol, dip it in there on a brush, just kind of brush it on here, and that little piece right here on the end, that will fold down. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this off to the side just right now. Because I fear if I start working, well, I'm going to have to, because I already put it in here. So I'm just going to have to be very, very careful trying to get both these on. Same problem I had before. If it fits perfect here, it leaves ever so slightly a tiny black or a tiny red sliver. I'm going to have to get creative in hiding that line, but I can do it. I have faith. Microsol on there, trying to get that to go around. All right, we will let that sit and we'll see how that looks when we come back. So we are going to now, we know we have to just assemble that all together. Once those decals dry, I'm actually not going to assemble it yet because it needs a coat of clear once I do all the decals. So we'll wait on that. So we're going to jump over here to part 30, which is the fuel tank, which we have it painted and we have it clear coated. So we are going to, I've already done all this. All right, so this, we're gonna move on to F21, which is LP72, which is mica silver. And these two dots right here need to be X18, which is LP5 semi-gloss black. So we'll hand paint those. And that's already been glued on as one piece. So all we really have to do is mount this piece onto the tank and paint that part there. So I'll be back after paint. All right, we are back from paint and it has dried. We painted the fuel cap. We did that the lovely LP72. And came out really well. Probably gonna give it a little bit of a dark gray wash once it's all on the bike. And that's what we're gonna do right now. See how it fits. All right, so it's got a little notch here. And if you flip this over, it's got a little notch right there. So if it's something like that, we can hope it's that easy. Just gonna press down on that. Won't need any glue, that's for sure. And it just fits right down in there. So we have the filler cap in. And while we're at it, since it's got it set aside anyway, we are going to put a little panel line down in here. There we go. And that's going to make that just really add a little bit more poppability. All right, so that step is all done. And technically, we can set it on the bike. It needs no decals. So we can just set this on the bike and it can be protected for right now. We don't have to touch it too much. That's how she looks on the bike. So, yay, that's done. The seat cowling that we're waiting on the decals to dry and another clear coat will slide on right over the light here. So it'll slide on right there. So we really can't, we can paint onto, we're gonna move on to the next step where we just slid that in and we're gonna paint our seat LP60 and LP79. Which is, and the seat is A21 right here. We're almost done with the A sprue. Oh, are we? I think we are done with the A sprue. So this is the last piece of the A sprue. All right, that is ready for paint. So I'm gonna go look what LP60 and LP79 are. So apparently the seat is a mixture of LP79, which is flat red, and LP60, which is NATO black. So that's going to be interesting contrast. So I think what we'll do is we'll paint the entire part flat red and then come in and mask the seat area off and shoot that with the NATO black. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're gonna go shoot that after I find a little, what am I looking for? I'm looking for, I know my bench is really messy. When I get fully involved in something, I get fully messy. All right, so we are going to go shoot this. The first coat, LP79 flat red. Be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to the Ducati build. In preparation for the contest that I was trying to make this and get this finished, which I didn't, it competed as is with the fairings incomplete. Only one had decals, but it held its own and did very well in Indiana, winning a gold. But I wanted to go over some of the steps that I've had that either didn't get filmed properly. The seat we got finished with the seat, masking off the flat red from the NATO black. So that is installed. Everything is pretty much installed except for the fairings are done. They're decaled, they're cleared, they're ready to go. This one here is not on, but it is complete and on the bike, but not permanently. I could just pluck it off and it'd be off. So I've completed almost everything, and I'm trying to organize the videos so that way I can start back up with where I am. So again, you guys have to forgive me. This is my first time trying to do YouTube and video builds. So technically, step 30 is done. We have it all painted, clear coated, and the fuel cap is in. So she looks pretty decent in place. So you can mark off step 30. We attached it. No gluing, just attached it, slid into the holes. We painted the seat LP60, which was NATO gray or NATO black. LP79 was flat red. So we masked those off and shot those. I think I showed that. So we haven't attached it we haven't done any of the screws yet. We have the cowling painted inside and out. So we just have to do the glass work. So I will be showing that in a video and then attaching that. So we're going to do step 32 and 33. And then these steps are already done. 34 and 35 are all done, painted, and decaled and DUCAT'd. So when I get back to my videos, I wanted to get a video out to you guys to help you think that I haven't stopped. So we will be on step 35. The next video will be 32, and then I'll jump to 35 because all of this has already been done. So hopefully that makes it clear as mud, and I look forward to getting these videos out to you guys and getting back on track and hoping to start the TACOM Apache on another build. So thanks guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.